Black janitor's daughter gets mocked by doctors, until she performs a impossible heart surgery. They laughed at her, even when she tried not to hear it. They laughed while they sipped their coffees, while they flipped through patient charts, while they traded stories about life and death, their voices edged with a smugness that made her blood run cold. A janitor's kid trying to play doctor, you believe that? Must ve mopped up some brains and thought she'd soaked up the knowledge. She should stick to scrubbing floors. The words floated around the break room like oil on water, refusing to sink. Maya Anjari had learned to let them roll off her, or at least pretend they did. It was easier to keep your head down when you'd grown up on the other side of their respect, easier to survive when you let your dignity be its own shelter. Because she'd spent her entire childhood watching her father, Samuel Anjari, mop the gleaming floors of the same hospital where she now worked as a resident in cardiac surgery. Some of the senior staff still remembered him, the quiet black janitor with a warm smile, always willing to take an extra shift, never too proud to wipe up after the surgeons who left blood, bile, and arrogance dripping behind them. They'd see Maya and think of him. And think she belonged with a mop. But she wasn't her father. She was Maya. And she had a gift. It had been a hard-fought road, paved with night shifts, ramen noodles, second-hand textbooks, and too many tears to count. Medical school had nearly broken her, but she refused to snap. She was, in her words, built from stronger stock, the daughter of a man who'd fought his way out of Nairobi's slums and a mother who'd died too young to see Maya rise. Now, at 29, she was a fourth-year cardiac resident at St. Raymond's Medical Center in Chicago. A place known for its prestigious surgeons, its high standards, and its impossible walls. A place where you'd better know which country club to join or at least which ties to wear. Maya had neither. She had skill. She had drive. And she had one secret dream, to perform a surgery no one at St. Raymond's had dared attempt for a decade. The DeLuca procedure. A revolutionary but borderline mythical heart reconstruction technique designed for a complex pediatric defect. It was so intricate, so risky, that a single slip of a scalpel could end a child's life in seconds. 10 years ago, St. Raymond's had lost a boy on the table trying to perfect it, and ever since, the procedure had been quietly banned from their operating rooms. No attending would touch it, no resident was allowed to practice it. But Maya had studied it. She'd read every line of every published paper. She'd practiced on simulation models until her hands felt as steady as stone. She'd even emailed the retired Italian surgeon who'd invented it, trading cautious questions across oceans. And she was ready. She knew it in her bones. But no one would ever let her try. Not the janitor's daughter. Yo, Maya, she turned, startled out of her thoughts by the familiar voice of Devon, a fellow resident who treated her with something close to kindness, a rare thing around St. Raymond's. Your patient's crashing in ICU 3. Congenital heart. Kid coded twice already. Her heart jolted. She had just been on rounds, checking charts, and knew exactly who Devon meant. 11-year-old Daniel, a boy with a heart defect so severe it made him gasp for breath if he so much as sat upright. She broke into a run, white coat snapping behind her, ignoring the looks and rolled eyes. When she reached Daniel's bedside, chaos was brewing. Nurses slammed medication into 4 ports. The monitors shrieked. A code blue resuscitation cart was already parked beside the bed. His O2 is in the tank, a nurse shouted. He's in V-fib. Another cried. Maya scanned the chart. The kid's ventricle had essentially shut down. None of the medications were holding. The only way he'd survive the next 20 minutes was a bypass. But even that wouldn't fix the defect. Only the DeLuca could. Her hands shook as the thought burned through her. No one will authorize that. No one will. A senior attending, Dr. Kirkman, thundered into the room. Gray-haired, brusque, commanding. He glanced at Maya like she was lint on his sleeve. Out of the way, he barked, shouldering her aside. This is far beyond a resident's pay grade. Maya forced herself to breathe. He needs the DeLuca, she blurted, before she could stop herself. Kirkman froze. Then barked a bitter laugh. The DeLuca, he spun on her like she'd suggested alien magic. That surgery killed a boy in this hospital. You're out of your mind. But I know how to. Out. Now. He shoved her away with a dismissive wave. Maya's jaw clenched. Daniel's face, so pale and innocent, haunted her. He will die, she thought, if we do nothing. She stepped back, eyes stinging, helpless as Kirkman prepared the paddles for yet another round of defibrillation. Then Daniel flatlined. A horrible, screeching drone filled the room. Maya watched Kirkman's shoulders stiffen. The code team moved like clockwork, trying to revive the child. But a clock could not fix a broken heart. She felt something inside her break, a dam, maybe, or a lock she'd placed on her own courage. No. No more waiting. No more permission. In the hallway, moments later, Kirkman was ranting to another attending about protocols and ethics and liabilities. Maya stood there, fist-balled, while Daniel's lifeless body lay behind the ICU doors. It doesn't have to be this way, she thought. She had one chance. One. She found Devon, who was lingering nearby, pale from the code. Devon, she whispered, grabbing his arm, I can save him. Devon shook his head, eyes wide. They'll have your license if you even try. I don't care, she snapped. Do you want him to die? Devon hesitated. I need you to help me get him to the OR, Maya said, voice iron strong now. Get me 5 minutes in that theater, 5. That's all I'm asking. He swallowed hard, looking over her shoulder at Daniel's room. Then he nodded. It took them 3 frantic minutes to slip Daniel onto a transport gurney, mask the transfer papers, and wheel him toward the cardiac OR. The whole time, Maya's heart felt like a war drum. Please, God, she prayed, let me do this. The OR was empty that night except for a sleepy scrub nurse prepping for a routine valve replacement the next morning. Maya flashed her badge, signed her name on the whiteboard, and barked orders with an authority she barely felt. We have a pediatric emergency, she said. Move. The nurse's eyes went wide. Devon was already hooking Daniel up to the bypass circuit. Maya pulled on her gloves, feeling the latex snap against her skin. Her mind went silent, the way it always did right before she made a cut. Outside, the rest of the hospital carried on, blissfully unaware that a janitor's daughter was about to do the unthinkable. Incision, she thought. Median sternotomy. The saw word, slicing through Daniel's chest. Her hands were steady. The monitors were a blur of numbers, oxygen sats hanging by a thread. Maya visualized every diagram she had ever studied, every conversation with the Italian master who had trusted her curiosity. One slip, and the tiny heart would tear. One slip, and Daniel was gone. But she didn't slip. Clamp the aorta. Dissect the septum. Her hands moved with a dancer's grace, precision born of obsession. Devon hovered beside her, handing off sutures, suctioning blood, eyes round with a mix of fear and awe. They worked in a breathless silence, only the beeping of the monitors grounding them to reality. Maya had never felt so alive. After 99 minutes, she placed the final suture. The reconstructed ventricle glowed a healthy pink. Daniel's heart began to beat again under its own power. A solid, steady, beautiful rhythm. Maya exhaled, chest caving with relief. They closed him up. No one knew, not yet. They would know in the morning, when Daniel woke up with a heart no one thought could be repaired. They would know when the charts showed what had been done. They would know when a janitor's daughter had rewritten 10 years of fear in one sleepless night. But for now, Maya just collapsed onto a stool in the scrub room, peeling off blood-slick gloves, her hands trembling. Devon stared at her like she was a miracle. "How," he breathed, "did you even know how to do that?" She met his eyes, so tired and so proud it made her ache. "My father taught me to believe nothing is impossible," she whispered. Then she stood up, shoulders straight, and stepped back into the hallway. Because her fight was only beginning. Maya barely slept. After Daniel's heart had restarted, after the sutures had been tied, after she had signed the record under emergency authorizations, she went back to her tiny on-call room and tried to close her eyes, but her heart was pounding, the images of the surgery replaying in brutal detail. What if they find out? What if they say it wasn't? He justified every terrifying possibility clawed at her. Losing her license. Being sued. Being branded a reckless fraud. But when she opened the ICU door at 6 a.m. to check on Daniel, the boy's steady, quiet breathing and the gentle beep of a healthy rhythm told her everything she needed to know. She had done the right thing. He was alive. And he would stay alive. That knowledge put a fragile smile on her lips. It didn't last long. Word traveled fast in a hospital. By 8 a.m. the department chairs were buzzing, and Kirkman was livid. Maya could hear him from halfway down the hallway, barking at the head nurse. Who authorized this procedure? Who let that resident do an outlawed surgery? Get me the chart. Now. The head nurse's voice trembled. Dr. Engery signed the emergency consent, sir. Dr. Engery. Kirkman spat the name like poison. Maya took a deep breath and stepped forward. It was me, Dr. Kirkman, she said, voice steady, though her hands were clammy. He turned on her, face red with rage. You have any idea what you've done? You hijacked a code blue patient and cut him open for a band procedure. You could have killed him. Maya did not back down. But I didn't. I saved him. Kirkman jabbed a finger an inch from her face. You're finished here, do you hear me? You'll be lucky if you don't get criminal charges. You are done. Her stomach twisted. But before she could answer, a smaller voice broke through. Is he okay? Everyone turned. Daniel's mother stood in the doorway, her hands shaking, eyes huge and tear-reddened. Maya took a step toward her, ignoring Kirkman's furious huffs. He's okay, Maya said softly. His heart is beating on its own. It's working. The woman crumpled to her knees, sobbing with gratitude. Thank you, doctor, she gasped. Thank you for saving my boy. Maya bent and took her hand, feeling tears prick her own eyes. Kirkman went silent, staring, jaw working as he realized the magnitude of what had happened. A life saved. A miracle performed. The fallout was swift. Within hours, Maya was ordered to appear before a disciplinary board, a panel of stone-faced administrators, lawyers, and surgeons, most of whom saw her as nothing more than a reckless intern from a janitor's family, out of line and out of place. They called it a review hearing, but Maya could smell a witch hunt. Devon tried to stand by her. "I'll back you up," he promised. "You had to do it, you had no choice." She nodded, grateful, but her mind was already bracing for war. Because she knew what they really hated, not just that she had broken rules, but that she had succeeded. A black woman. A janitor's daughter. Saving a child with a surgery they were too afraid to even attempt. That was a threat to their hierarchy. And they would punish her for it. In the hearing, the chair Dr. Felder, a gray-haired man with clipped syllables and a diamond ring that gleamed in the harsh lights, read her accusations with no hint of emotion: unauthorized use of the oar, performing a banned procedure, endangering a minor patient, insubordination. They made it sound like a crime scene. Maya's mouth went dry, but she forced herself to answer each point. "The patient was coding," she said. "No other intervention could have saved him. The DeLuca was his only chance." Felder raised an eyebrow. "And you think you're qualified, Dr. Njeri, to attempt a surgery that even senior attendings have refused for 10 years? Maya held his gaze. "Yes. I practiced it. I studied it. I spoke directly with Dr. DeLuca himself for mentorship." A murmur rippled through the panel. "You contacted DeLuca?" Felder asked, surprised. Maya nodded. "He encouraged me. He told me how to adapt the technique for smaller children. I trusted what I learned." Felder sighed. "You understand the liability you created? If that child had died." "He did die," Maya snapped. "His heart stopped. And I brought him back." Silence. The entire room fell still. She let that hang in the air. Felder exhaled, looking older than a moment before. "We will review your actions. You're suspended until the board concludes its investigation." Maya's throat closed. Suspended. The word stung worse than any knife. She stood and gathered her files, refusing to cry. The only thing that mattered was that Daniel was alive. Devon caught up to her in the corridor. "They'll try to bury this," he warned. "They're embarrassed." Maya nodded. "Let them. They can't change the fact that the boy lived." Devon shook his head, admiration shining through. "You did the impossible, Maya. Even if they try to erase you, you did it." She tried to smile, but it felt like glass in her mouth. Because the truth was, she didn't feel victorious. She felt exhausted, terrified, and alone. When Maya went home that night, she found her father waiting in the kitchen. Samuel Njeri, mop bucket still sitting by the door from his shift. His hands were dry and cracked from years of bleach and hard water. "Maya," he said, his voice soft, "I heard some people talking." She swallowed. "I performed the DeLuca," she admitted. "On a boy who was dying." Samuel's face lined, wise, proud, did not flinch. "Did he live?" he asked. "Yes," she said. Samuel smiled, a slow, wondrous thing. "Then you did what you had to," he said. "I always knew you would do things they could not imagine." Maya sat down beside him, all the strength draining out of her. "Baba," she whispered, "they might end my career." Samuel put his work-roughened hand on hers. "They cannot end you," he said gently. "They cannot kill what God put in you." Her eyes burned with tears, but she nodded. 3 days later, the story broke. No one was sure who leaked it, maybe one of the nurses, maybe a grateful family member, but the local news got wind of the miracle surgery performed by a young black resident whose father had cleaned the very same hospital floors. The headlines were dramatic. Banned surgery saves dying boy. Janitor's daughter defies odds. Resident breaks hospital rules, saves life. The public fell in love with the story. Reporters camped outside the hospital. Patients' families cheered her in the halls. Other residents, even those who had once mocked her, started whispering about how fearless she must be. The administration tried to spin it as a dangerous stunt, but the tide was against them. Maya found herself on a talk show 3 days later, nervously gripping the chair arm while the host read the introduction. "You are the daughter of a janitor," the host said, eyes bright, "and you just saved a boy with a surgery no one else dared to attempt. How do you feel?" Maya took a shaky breath. "I feel grateful," she said simply. "Grateful I could help, and grateful my father taught me to believe in what's possible." The crowd clapped. Back at St. Raymond's, the heat on the board was relentless. Parents were furious at the thought of punishing a doctor who had saved a child. By the following week, the board reversed its suspension, though they refused to apologize. Maya returned to work, head held high. Kirkman cornered her in the hallway that same morning. "You got lucky," he growled. "Don't think you'll get another chance like that." Maya met his eyes, calm as glass. "I won't need luck," she said quietly. "Just skill." And she walked away. Daniel recovered so fast it made the whole pediatric team dizzy. Within 2 weeks, he was walking, talking, even kicking a soccer ball in the therapy room. His mother hugged Maya so hard at discharge that Maya thought her ribs might break. "I will never forget you," the woman wept. Maya just smiled, eyes misty. "Take care of him," she said. Her legend grew. Other residents started asking to see her DeLuca notes. Attendings who had once sneered at her name now watched her with a wary sort of respect. The chief of surgery even offered her a research fellowship to formally study advanced pediatric heart techniques. It was a chance to expand on what she had proven, to turn the impossible into a new standard of care. She accepted. But respect was a funny thing, Maya learned. It could shift as easily as wind. A few months later, another case landed on her docket, a 5-year-old girl named Malia, born with a similar ventricular defect. The girl's father was a high-profile lawyer. He refused any risk. "I read what you did," he told Maya coldly. "I won't have you experimenting on my daughter." Maya's jaw clenched. "Sir, I'm not experimenting. I'm offering her a chance to live." But the man wouldn't budge. He demanded a traditional, palliative surgery, one that might buy Malia a few years, but not a lifetime. Maya went home that night in agony. She could save Malia. She knew it. But she couldn't force consent. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering how many other children would suffer because fear stood in the way. The next day, she did something bold. She called Dr. DeLuca in Italy, her old mentor. His voice was gravelly with age, but warm. "Maya," he said, "I saw the news. I am so proud." "Thank you," she whispered, tears stinging her eyes. "Why do you sound so heavy, child?" She told him about Malia, about the father who would rather see his daughter half alive than risk something greater. DeLuca sighed. "This is medicine, Maya. We stand at the edge of a cliff, and the world begs us to step back. But if you do not jump, there will never be flight." his words sank deep in her bones. 2 weeks later, Malia crashed during a routine procedure. Her heart was too weak, too far gone. The father came running to Maya, face white, hands shaking. "Do something!" he screamed. Maya did. This time, she had the father's desperate signature on the consent. She took Malia to the OR, hands steady, mind sharp, and performed the DeLuca with even more confidence than before. 4 hours later, Malia's tiny heart beat stronger than ever. And once again, Maya had performed the impossible. In the weeks that followed, parents from across the country began calling St. Raymond's asking for the janitor's daughter to operate on their children. Maya was stunned. She went from mocked to celebrated, from overlooked to unstoppable, all because she had refused to let fear win. The department tried to claim credit, of course. Kirkman went on TV to boast about our advanced cardiac program, as if Maya's courage belonged to them. But the families knew the truth. The children knew the truth. Maya knew the truth. One evening, after a long, punishing shift, she walked through the hospital lobby and saw the portrait of the medical board hanging on the wall, all white men in crisp suits, looking down from a polished brass frame. She thought about her father, who used to polish that very floor with his old push mop. And she thought about herself, a daughter who had dared to pick up a scalpel instead. She stood a little taller. Because she knew this was only the beginning. There were more hearts to fix. More walls to break. And no one would ever make her believe she didn't belong here again. Maya stood at the scrub sink, the scent of antiseptic stinging her nose. The routine of washing in, scrubbing fingers, wrists, forearms with the precision of a ritual always steadied her. This time, though, her hands didn't tremble. They hadn't in weeks. Since Malia's surgery, something had shifted inside her. She was no longer the resident fighting to be seen. She was the surgeon people asked for. Patients traveled from hundreds of miles away, seeking out the DeLuca expert, the woman who had dared to break the hospital's silent ban on a surgery that everyone else feared. St. Raymond's, for its part, scrambled to keep up with her. They grudgingly gave her more privileges, more resources, more staff, though Kirkman still glared every time she walked past. He couldn't deny results. Neither could the families whose children were running, laughing, living thanks to Maya's steady hands. Today's patient was Leo, a 4-year-old with a defect so twisted the textbooks barely had a name for it. 2 other hospitals had turned his parents away. Maya had reviewed his files until midnight, tracing every malformed artery in her mind. She could see the pathways like a city map. She dreamed of the surgery, memorizing every clamp, every stitch. Now she looked into the mirror above the scrub sink, searching her own eyes. "You can do this," she told herself softly. Then she stepped through the doors, a warrior entering the arena. The OR was a temple of quiet focus, the team already prepped. Leo was asleep on the table, his tiny chest rising and falling under the ventilator's hiss. Devon was there, now a trusted partner in these impossible surgeries. He handed her a retractor. "Ready?" he asked, eyes bright with respect. Maya nodded. "Let's save him." The first incision felt almost graceful. She opened Leo's chest, gently moving tissue aside, exposing a heart as fragile and flawed as a crumpled flower. The bypass machine kept the blood moving while Maya's hands worked. There were moments, horrifying moments, where a coronary branch bled more than expected, or a suture threatened to tear free. But Maya's mind was like a calm sea. She adjusted, adapted, trusted. At one point, she glanced up and saw Kirkman watching from the observation gallery, arms folded. His scowl no longer frightened her. She returned her focus to Leo's heart. For 5 hours, she danced along the edge of disaster. And when she placed the final suture, the reconstructed ventricle began to pink up, pumping as if it had always been whole. Leo's numbers stabilized. His heart was healed. The relief, as always, nearly bowled her over. She leaned against the table, eyes damp with gratitude, while Devon closed the incision. "That's another one," he whispered, shaking his head in awe. "You really are unstoppable." Maya smiled. "No," she corrected. "We are unstoppable." She checked on Leo the next morning, and he was awake, blinking drowsily. His parents collapsed into tears when she told them he would live a normal life. As Maya left their room, she saw her father in the hallway, holding a mop as always, pride shining on his face. "Baba," she said, hugging him tight. "You are everything your mother and I dreamed," Samuel whispered. Maya felt tears sting her eyes. "You gave me the courage." He smiled, eyes soft. "Courage is what we give our children so they can go farther than we ever could. It would have been enough, that one surgery." But the world was changing around her. A month later, the chief of surgery approached Maya with a proposition. "We want to set up a formal pediatric complex cardiac program," he told her in the boardroom. "You would lead it? Train others? Bring the DeLuca procedure into standard practice?" Maya nearly choked. "You want me to run it?" The chief nodded. "You've proven what's possible. You should teach it." Kirkman objected, "Of course. She's too young, too untested." The chief cut him off. "She's the only one doing these cases. Unless you want to learn them, Dr. Kirkman." Kirkman flushed, glared, but said nothing. Maya forced herself to breathe. She could build something. She could change the next generation of surgeons. "I'll do it," she said finally. "But on my terms. We focus on patients no one else will touch." The chief smiled. "That's why we chose you." Maya threw herself into building the program. She pulled in residents, nurses, even skeptical attendings, showing them step by step what she had learned. She fought for resources, grants, community outreach. She refused to let the board cut corners. And gradually, the culture shifted. The same halls where she'd once been mocked for being a janitor's daughter now echoed with talk of her breakthroughs. Medical students competed to work with her. Parents pinned their hopes on her. Years passed. Her reputation grew. She gave lectures across the country, published groundbreaking papers on pediatric cardiac reconstruction, and pushed for fairer treatment of underserved communities in heart care. She never forgot the children who inspired her, Daniel, Malia, Leo, and so many more. And she never forgot her father, who watched each triumph from a quiet spot by the janitor's closet, always cheering, always proud. One spring morning, 5 years after Daniel's surgery, Maya stood at the front of a massive auditorium. Hundreds of surgeons and residents had gathered for a lecture she was delivering on the evolution of the DeLuca. She paused, looking out over their faces. So many were young, hungry to learn, just like she had been. In a quiet moment, she remembered how far she had come. How far they all could go if they refused to be underestimated. "Before we begin," she said into the microphone, "I want to tell you why I'm here. Not just as a surgeon, but as the daughter of a janitor." Murmurs rippled through the hall. Maya smiled. My father cleaned these hospital floors for 20 years, she continued. He made sure they shone so you wouldn't slip. So your patients wouldn't get infections. He built safety, dignity, and care into every bucket of water. When I stood in this hospital, being mocked and belittled, I carried him in my heart. His resilience. His pride. And I promised him I would never let their smallness make me small, too. A hush fell. She raised her chin, voice steady as a heartbeat. So remember this, skill knows no class. Genius knows no bloodline. If you want to change the world, don't ask permission. Earn it with your work. Demand it with your results. And never let anyone tell you what you cannot do. The room erupted in applause, some people even rising to their feet. That night, she walked home through a light rain, coat draped over one arm, heart full. At her apartment, she found her father waiting, holding a fresh bouquet of daisies. For you, he said, smiling. Maya laughed, hugging him tight. Thank you, Baba. They sat down with mugs of tea, listening to the rain tapping the window. Samuel took her hand. You have made a legacy, he told her. One your mother would be so proud of. Maya blinked away tears. No, Baba. We made this. He squeezed her hand, eyes bright. Then let the world see it. Months later, the pediatric heart program officially opened its own wing. Maya stood at the ribbon-cutting ceremony with Samuel by her side. They posed for a photograph in front of a new plaque on the wall, Maya Enjuri Pediatric Cardiac Center. Honoring the dream of Samuel Enjuri. Maya ran her fingers over her father's name etched in bronze, overwhelmed. He put an arm around her shoulders. I used to mop these floors, he whispered. And now your name is on the walls. Maya nodded, voice thick with gratitude. Because you taught me I was worthy, she said. The first child to have surgery in the new wing was a girl named Amaya, born with a 4-chamber defect so lethal even other children with similar conditions had died. Maya operated herself. 12 hours on her feet. One mistake could have cost Amaya her life. But Maya's hands were steady. Her heart was steady. She finished the procedure, stepped back, and watched the monitors spike to healthy, strong numbers. The nurses wept. Devon hugged her, beaming. You did it again, he laughed. Maya looked down at the tiny girl, still sedated, and smiled. We did it, she corrected. In the hallway, she saw Kirkman, older now, grayer, leaning on a cane. He gave a curt nod. You're a hell of a surgeon, he said, voice grudging but genuine. Maya nodded. Thank you. Better than I ever was, he added. She didn't gloat. She just let the moment stand. Because sometimes even enemies can change. As she scrubbed out that evening, Maya caught her reflection in the mirror. She saw the girl she used to be, the one who hid her father's janitor badge in her school backpack, too ashamed to show anyone. She saw the woman she was now, fierce, confident, unstoppable. And she saw a future that stretched farther than she ever could have imagined. A future full of young surgeons she would teach. A future full of children whose hearts she would heal. A future where class and color would never limit what was possible. She smiled to herself, a quiet, triumphant smile. Thank you, Baba, she whispered, though he wasn't in the room, for every dream you mopped into these floors. Then she stepped out into the hall, her coat swinging around her shoulders, ready to save another life. Because the world still needed her hands. And she was ready.